grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
Hello, we are here. And by we, I mean I'm T.
And I'm another J.
Not the normal J. This is my brother. This is my brother, Jay.
Hi.
He's visiting from out of town. And Jay just happens to be also out of town, out of the country, actually. And so he's going to be the stand-in guest host. He's never, ever been a guest host on a podcast, I don't think.
Yeah, be gentle. I'm an old man now and don't live here anymore.
Correct.
I live in another state.
Yes. So he's here visiting. And we just decided maybe he'd like to talk to us about serial killers because that's what we be doing on this show. Before we get into talking about serial killers, I wanted to bring up, I already brought this up on Crime Bitches, but I wanted to bring up, I don't know if anybody's following the Brian Kohberger, Idaho case, but his trial is actually going to be live streamed, which I'm shocked because Idaho has been very close-lipped, tight-lipped on the whole case. And they're going to live stream it. And they're going to, apparently they have a bunch of witnesses for the defense, which is weird because I'm like, who's his witnesses? So I'm excited for that. But they will not live stream the two girls who survived. They will not live stream their testimonies.
That's good.
Which is good. Protect those girls. So that's just a little update on the current true crime things that we talk about. Anything that you want to say before we get into our stuff?
No, I'm ready to do this.
Okay.
What are you drinking today?
Oh, Jay, thanks for asking. Today I'm drinking a black iced tea because I can't stand it with sugar. And I didn't have any creamer for my coffee this morning, so I had to just get an iced tea. Wah, wah.
That's sad.
That sucks.
But I'm just drinking a cold brew coffee, so nothing fancy in it at all.
But here's the thing. That's an interesting thing because we hate cold brew over here, so they never hear cold brew. Nobody ever drinks cold brew.
I love cold brew.
He does love cold brew. Every time he's like, you want to taste it? I'm like, nah, I don't like cold brew. It's gross. And where did you get your cold brew from today?
Today is from good old Starbucks.
Yeah, that's where my iced tea's from too.
Yeah.
Is the good old Starbies. So that's what we'd be drinking today. So who are we talking about today? We are talking about a man named Levi Bellfield. Now, Levi is nicknamed the bus stop killer. He also has an alias of Levi Rabbits and not rabbit like bunny. That's just how I'm going to pronounce it, is Rabbets. I don't know. So his confirmed victims are 3. Okay. However, as we do on this podcast and with serial killers, he's actually accused of much more than 3. Now, his murder dates are 2002 to 2004, and the location of the murders were London, England, and United Kingdom. And his method of murder was hitting with a hammer, which is brutal as fuck.
Dang, I thought it would be smiling. Showing them teeth. And
you know, it's funny you say that because he's like a super charismatic, like, and that's what they're like. He's like a jokester, and then he like turns nasty. And a characteristic of his murders was that he was a stalker. So he would stalk these people. So little background on Levi. He was born May 17th, 1968 in Isleworth, Greater London. His parents were Joseph and Jean. Now, Joseph, his father, died of leukemia when Levi was just 10 years old, and Levi was one of 5 children. And after his father died, they actually were raised on what's called a council estate in southwest London. Now, I was like, ooh, that's fancy. No, it's public housing.
Oh, the fancy way of saying
It's the fancy way of saying public housing. I was like, oh, okay. Now, Levi first studies at Forge Lane Junior School, which is like his elementary school for United States. Then he joins Rectory Secondary School in Hampton, which is like middle school. And then he joins Feltham Community College. And I forgot, in the United Kingdom, they have like secondaries like middle school to high school. Like it's all that.
Right.
So he does all those things. Now, by all accounts, I was not able to find anything other than he was raised in a relatively normal household. His mom and him had a super close relationship, but almost like too close. So some of the psychiatrists and stuff that saw him were like, it was actually a very unhealthy relationship, but not abusive, but more like you shouldn't dote on your mom and your mom should not dote on you.
Yep.
And that's kind of what it was. Now, Levi does throughout his life, he ends up having 11 children with multiple women. Now, according to the women that he had these children with, he was a controlling boyfriend. One of the girls, they got into an argument and he forced her to sit on a stool all night long. And they asked her, why didn't you just get up? When you went to bed. And she goes, I would rather go. Because they said, why didn't you, how'd you go to the bathroom? And she said, I would have rather peed on that stool and peed on myself than get off that chair.
Wow.
That's how much control he had over them.
Yeah.
Now, he also supposedly told one of his girlfriends that he raped several women, and she was kind of scared, obviously. Then she finds a knife and she finds a magazine with a knife, and the magazine has all of the faces of the blonde women scratched out.
Oh.
And he tells her that he absolutely fucking despises blonde women and that they all deserve to die.
Ouch.
So, in 1981, Levi is convicted of burglary. Then in 1990, he is convicted of assault against a police officer and also has convictions for driving offenses and theft. So he's just rolling in with all these things.
Yeah.
By 2002, he had actually already spent nearly a year in prison and had a total of 9 convictions. So he just went off the deep end. But again, not as a child, but as a adult, he just went a little cray-cray. Levi at one point worked as a club bouncer. And then he ends up owning a wheel clamping business in West Drayton.
What is wheel clamping?
I knew you were going to ask that, so I looked it up.
Okay.
What do you think wheel clamping is?
I have no clue.
Okay. It is putting boots on cars.
Oh, for the city?
Actual wheel clamping.
Oh, so the enemy.
So he was the enemy of everybody who had unpaid parking tickets.
Okay.
So that's what he did. And that was in West London.
Okay.
Then on October 14th, 2001, Levi abducts and imprisons a 17-year-old girl named Anna Maria Rennie. And no, he didn't get caught for that or anything, but he abducts her and he holds her in prison, but she lives, she escapes or something. Then on March 21st, 2002, 13-year-old Amanda Jane Dowler, who was nicknamed Milly, so we'll call her Milly, she was actually last seen leaving the railway station in Walton on the Thames, and her body is discovered 6 months later in the Yateley Heath woods. Nobody knows what happened. At the time, they were what? This poor 13-year-old girl, she was getting off the bus. And
So the first abduction, was there any harm?
No.
So it was a precursor.
It was a precursor, and the thing is, they don't find out about that until later, after he's actually arrested.
Right.
Then on February 4th, 2003, Marsha Louise McDonnell, she's 19 years old. She is actually beaten over the head with a blunt instrument near her home in Hampton. Now, this happens shortly after she had gotten off the 111 bus from Kingston up in the same Thames area at the stop on Percy Road. She was found, but she died 2 days later in the hospital because she was beaten so badly. Now, after this murder, which we now know he did this, but again, they don't know at the time, but Levi actually sells his car. He has this van, and he sells it for £1,500, even though he had just bought the car 6 months earlier for £6,000. So obviously he sells the car because I think in his brain, he thinks people are going to see him.
It's tied to him or... Yeah.
Now on December 16th, 2003, Levi actually attempts to kill Irma Dragoshi. She was 39 and she was in Longford. He attempts to kill her, but she does escape.
Okay.
Then on May 28th, 2004, Kate Sheedy, she's 18. So Kate Sheedy is on the street. She's at the street by this industrial area in Isleworth. And Levi is driving by her, and she's kind of sketched out by his vehicle, or maybe he's driven by a couple of times. So she runs across the street to go into the entrance of this industrial area, and Levi runs her over.
Oh.
And then backs up and runs her over again.
Oh.
And then runs over her again.
Oh my.
And she lived.
Wow.
But her injuries were her back had been completely ripped open. Her liver was split in two. She had a punctured leg and several broken ribs.
All from being run over?
All from being run over. And she actually called the police and talked to them. There's like a whole 911 call where she is crying and she's like, this man ran me over and then he backed up and she's telling them and they're like, well, where are you hurt? And she goes, everywhere. And she's just crying. And it was but she lives. And so, which shocked me because I'm like,
that's a miracle.
That is a complete miracle.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, girl, go Kate.
Yeah.
Now, and again, at the time, she doesn't know who he is. To be fair, she has no idea who he is. She does get her justice later, though, because she is able to pick him out of a lineup at one point. So she'll see justice.
Good.
Then on August 19th, 2004, Amélie Delagrange, who's 22, she's a French student, and she's visiting the UK. And she is actually found at Twickenham. Every time I do something for the UK, I love the names of their streets and stuff. She was found at Twickenham Green.
Okay.
And she was found there with a serious head injury. And she ends up dying in the hospital that same night. Now, somehow, some way, the police actually start to think whoever killed Amélie may also have been responsible for the murder of Marsha McDonnell. And the reason they think that is just because of the fact that their injuries are very similar. They both were beaten in the head, blunt force trauma, found near bus areas. Like,
was Marsha Martha? Marsha was the one that survived and then died in the hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the other thing is they both actually survived and then died in the hospital. Now, I have no idea what led them to think Levi was a possible suspect in the murder. I have no idea why they came to him as a suspect, but they did. So they actually started to surveil him. And they watched him drive around in his van, pull over, talk to young girls at bus stops, blonde-haired young girls at bus stops, and they surveilled him doing this. They had CCTV footage about Amélie. And they saw her walking toward the Twickenham Green area after she had actually missed her stop from the bus she was on. So she was riding a bus. The bus pulls over to the stop, but she didn't realize she had to get off there. She then, like the 2 stops later, goes, oh shit, I was supposed to get off back there. So she gets off. And now she's walking back towards the bus stop she was supposed to be going to. Now they see her walking through these areas through CCTV footage. And then all of a sudden they see she's disappeared. Like they don't see her anymore. And they find her body in the area where she disappeared.
Were all of these abductions and attempted murders, were they all within the same area? I'm unfamiliar with.
Yes.
London.
I am unfamiliar too. They were all in the area that he lived.
Gotcha.
So that I'm sure had something to do with that. They also were able to, I think they searched for vans in the area and they were able to find that he owned a van or whatever. Now, they then at that point were like, well, we saw this van. They didn't know it was him at the time, but they're like, we saw this van and it keeps going and driving through this. Like we saw it go by like 3 or 4 times in the same area. And so then they were like, okay, well, let's start there. And the guy, the detective who saw this, it was crazy because he was looking at the CCTV footage. I always say that, CCTV footage. And he kept looking at it going, this is so grainy. Like I can't get a license plate. I can't get a make of who the person is. I don't even actually, like, I know that the make and model just off the look of the van. We just know it's white. And so he was like, fine, we're going to like this is what did I say? 2002. So we're not, this isn't like the 70s, right?
Right.
So they have things at their hands that they can use. And he's like, I'm going back to like old school police work. We're going to start going door to door. We're going to start going into police records. We're going to start, he's like doing all the legwork.
It's like a movie.
Yeah, it is like a movie. I actually watched a documentary with that guy, with the actual detective, and he talks about it. Like he talks about how he did it. So they decide, okay, let's just start looking for every piece of evidence. So they're walking along the area that she walked along. They pick up things that they think could have been a sign of something. They're looking for any possible evidence. They also decide we're going to search all of the country for white vans.
Oh.
And at the time, there were 26,000 white vans in the country of that van, that specific van. And so they're like, well, that's a lot. What are we supposed to do? And so he was like, well, we're going to cross-reference it I feel like he's like should be on SVU or some shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're going to cross-reference this because we actually have a list of 129 women that they made that they called it their strong list because it was all women who had at some point reported their boyfriend as being like abusive or strangling or anything like that in the area. So they said, we're going to cross-reference those vans with these girls' boyfriends. That's what they said.
Okay.
And they do that and they find that this man, Levi, owns this white van and he's on their strong list because like 2 of the girls or 3 of the girls on there are his ex-girlfriends. And so they're like, well, let's start with him. So they start surveilling him. They also are able to talk to Kate Sheedy, the one who was run over but survived. And she was like, oh yeah, well, I was run over by that white van. So now they're like, holy fuck.
All falling into place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on November 22nd, 2004, Levi is arrested on suspicion of the murder of Amélie. Now, he is charged November 25th. So he's charged with her murder. While he's there, they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we're charging you with 3 counts of rape in Surrey and West London. Now that we got you.
Yeah.
And then December 9th, they actually charged him with assaulting a woman in Twickenham in the 90s. And then he's remanded and taken into custody. So I think when he was arrested, I think his face got like put up and all these girls were like, hold on.
You said he was born in 68?
He was born in 68.
Okay.
And so I think people saw him and was like, I know that man.
So in the late 90s, early 2000s, we're
Yes.
talking what, 30 years old?
Listen,
20?
I don't do math.
I don't know.
68, 78.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like 20s, 30s.
Okay. Yeah.
So, sure. But it was crazy because it was like, what, like all these people start coming out. Like that man tried to attack me. That guy, that's how they found out about the girl that he attempted or that he had taken,
Yeah. Gotcha.
because she comes forward and is like, I know that guy. And so he's in custody. And while he's in custody, they're like, oh, by the way, we have evidence that you killed Amélie. So we're going to actually arrest you and charge you for that. So on March 2nd, 2006, he is also then charged with the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy, the one that he ran over with the car.
Yeah.
So it's just like he's in jail and every time he turns around, they're like, another one.
Yeah.
Like,
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Here's another charge for your book.
Yep. That's exactly.
Yeah.
Now, he also was charged with the attempted murder and causing bodily harm to Irma Dragoshi, which I had said in the beginning that he had attempted to kill her.
Yeah.
So she was able to identify him. They charge him for that too. Then on May 25th of 2006, he is charged with the murder of Marsha McDonnell. So now they're like, okay, we have these things.
Yeah.
So in 2008, he actually goes to trial. So it took him he was arrested in, what did I say? 2004.
Okay.
So it took them 4 years. And in those 4 years, he's just racking up charges. Yeah. Now he goes to trial for their murder of the 2 girls, the 2 women, and he is found guilty. And he is sentenced to life in prison. And the recommendation is to never release him. Because in the UK, which I have learned this by all the research I've done, their life sentences we have the same thing. Our life sentences don't necessarily mean you're in jail for life.
Sure.
But their life sentences are most of the time they will get out of jail.
Okay.
Very rarely do they actually recommend they don't get out of jail. And so his was life sentence and also you should never be released, which it weighs heavily because they will really think like, okay.
Yeah.
Now he's in jail. Okay. 2 years later, 2010, they're like, hey, sir, we have another charge for you.
No, it's, sir.
Oh, yeah. I can't do it.
Hello, sir. Got another charge for you.
I want to say, hello, governor. But it's not governor. So he is charged with the murder of Milly Dowler, the very first girl that he killed, that 13-year-old. And he's also charged with an attempted abduction of a 12-year-old girl named Rachel Cowles in 2002. So he is just like, he's just taking them all. Now, he denies any involvement in the murder. He actually is like, I don't know what you're talking about. And his defense did not even try to provide any sort of evidence to like prove his innocence. So he was found guilty by a jury in June of 2011.
Wow.
Then January 27th of 2016, he was given a life sentence for that as well. So now he has 2 life sentences.
Okay.
Now,
do you know if their life sentences are like 25?
I think it's like 20. Like ours is 25.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they don't have like a set time, but I think they can like they don't have the whole life sentence without parole thing.
Right.
That like we have life sentence without parole, which means you're never getting out.
You're right.
But if you get life in prison, you can apply for parole at 25 years. They don't have the not able to apply.
But they don't have like a certain.
I don't think they have
years.
a certain amount of years.
Okay.
I've never seen it in my mind.
You've never seen a number put on it.
Never seen a number. But I actually, no, I haven't. Not for the UK. Other countries like Australia, it's like 26 years. So
it's something similar.
Yeah, I think it's probably similar. But now he has 2 life terms. And so I'm like, okay, well, even if he served just 25, if you had him serve them consecutively,
right,
then it's what, 50?
Yeah,
or like one after the
70,
other?
80 years old.
Yeah. So it's like, okay. I mean, that's fair. Now, January 27th of 2016. So he's chilling in prison because it's just what he does. And the Surrey police say that Levi has admitted to raping and murdering Milly, which is who he's already been. He's already been convicted,
Right.
but apparently he actually had said like, no, I did. And then they go to him and they're like, well, did you want to make a statement about this? Because, maybe her family would like to know. And he's like, I never said that. I never did. And so they think that what he was doing was purposely doing this to like hurt her family, to like keep bringing it up, right? Because they've already got him in prison. He's going to jail for life. So it should be done. But then 5 years after he's sentenced, he's bringing up Milly again and be like, well, I did do it. No, I didn't. And it's like to cause harm to their family.
Yeah, preventing that closure that the family needs.
Then in 2024, so just last year, Levi apparently signed a confession to murdering a woman named Lynn Russell and her daughter Megan in 1996. So now he's admitted to killing this lady. And he was suspected. Like he was suspected of this. However, they had no proof, but there was another man that looked like a better suspect. And he's actually serving time in jail right now for their murders. And he has come out and he's like, okay, well, if he's telling you he killed them and I've been saying,
not me.
yeah. And his lawyer actually came out and said, I have to wait until Levi's confession, signed confession is documented and we have to make sure that it's like verified. Right. Then as soon as it happens, I will apply to get this guy out of jail. And all I'm thinking is, why should you even have to apply? Shouldn't it just be an automatic, oh shit, we're sorry, off you go?
Right.
But apparently that's not how the UK works. So the guy is like, I have been saying for years I never did it. And the thing with Lynn was her daughter Megan, and then she had another daughter, and they were all together. And he had actually, supposedly, Levi had actually held her or grabbed her and threatened her and her children. And he was like, if you don't make a sound, I won't do anything to your kids. But I guess she started screaming, and he said that the more she screamed, the more he would hurt her, and decided he was going to kill her kids. But one of her kids did survive.
Was he in a relationship with her as well?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. He was very specific, I guess. He would specifically stalk blonde-haired girls. But you know what's funny is one of his ex-wives or girlfriends, I guess ex-girlfriend, I don't think he ever actually was married. One of his ex-girlfriends, there's a picture of her. She is blonde as hell. So it's like, okay, well, that's weird.
Was his mother blonde?
No, but I do have in my shots,
some kind of connection.
I have something that they think may have happened. Okay, so as it sits right now, there has not been any updates on whether his confession is going to be taken or not. Because that's the other thing, is they have to actually accept his confession, which is so bizarre.
Yeah.
But apparently what he was able to tell them in his confession were things that only the killer would know, that they never let out into the world.
Okay, so here's a plot twist. Was he in jail with the guy who was originally charged with that crime?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because the jail that he is in is reserved for the most heinous crime people. And I don't think that other guy, I don't think he's in that same jail.
I was thinking talking between jail cells, like, I'll take your charge.
I could see that. Actually,
I mean, everything else is like a movie. Why not?
Do you know who he was jailed with? I forgot to put this in my shot, so I'll say it now. He was jailed with the Yorkshire Ripper. I don't know if you've heard of him. Like, it was like,
I haven't.
So the Yorkshire Ripper, somebody in England, I haven't done anything about him, but he was jailed with the Yorkshire Ripper. So he was jailed with another serial killer. So
was the Yorkshire Ripper like a Jack the Ripper, like he was a knife guy?
I don't know. I haven't done my research on him yet. I don't know. But like, I know about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
But I won't ever talk about him because nobody knows who he actually was.
Yeah, right.
But the Yorkshire Ripper, he's in my serial killer book. So I will most definitely be doing something. But yeah, he actually was with him. And while he was in jail, he actually was like close enough that they could talk to each other.
Oh, getting pointers.
Well, the Yorkshire Ripper, I guess, died in jail. So it's not a big deal. But apparently he has a fiance. This dude has a fiance. And he met her.
The Levi guy?
Yes. Which also, again,
good.
These fucking crazy women. I don't understand it. So she met him though because she was going there, and somehow they met through Yorkshire Ripper. And I'm like, girl. And she like wants to get married to him, and she tried to say that he's not a monster.
Okay.
And his ex-girlfriend came out and she said, he's literally a rapist and a serial killer. What do you mean he's not a monster? She said, get your head straight. That's what I was like, and guess what? She is bright blonde. So it's very weird.
Yeah.
So Levi is currently serving time at HMP Franklin in Durham. And again, like I said, this is a place that they literally reserve for like the worst of the worst. It's serial killers. It is like terrible pedophiles. It's not a good prison. I'll just say that.
Well, is there any good?
Not really
prisons?
any good prisons, but he's got the bad prison.
Yeah.
Now he is set to live there the rest of his life. Like they have no plans to ever release him. Okay, so that is the story of Levi Bellfield. Do you want to hear the shots? And if you don't, Jay listens to my podcast. So a refresher, the shots are just extra fun. I used to call them the fun facts. Jay said they're not fun facts. So they're shots.
And if you name them shots, it kind of goes with the fatal blend.
It does. Okay, yes. So you want to hear the shots?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the chief inspector who led the murder investigation said, when we started dealing with him, he came across as very jokey. He's like your best mate, but he's a cunning individual and violent. He can switch from being nice to nasty instantly. So when you said that in the beginning, like I thought it was a smile. I'm like, shit, bro, do you know this one? Because that's kind of what he did. No, he was a charmer. Now, he also has said, the investigator also said, he has a massive ego to feed. He thinks he's God's gift to everyone. He drives around in his car and feels a bit whatever and sees some young blonde girl. The young blonde girl says, go away. And he thinks, how dare you turn down Levi Bellfield?
Like a sociopath.
Yes. You're worth nothing. And then she gets whacked over the head with a hammer. It is shown in the case of Kate Sheedy. This is the one he ran over.
Yep.
She was smart enough to think she didn't like the look of his car, and she crosses the road, and he thinks, you think you're so clever, and whoosh, he runs her over.
Boy, if he would have driven a really nice car, there'd be a lot more victims.
For real. If it wasn't creepy van.
Yeah, driving around a really, really nice BMW.
You're not wrong. Thank God he chose the shit van.
I'm not taking notes, by the way.
So, psychologists have actually believed that Levi's hatred for women may have stemmed from an incident in his younger years. Okay. Now, what it is, this is sound to most people are gonna be like, are you fucking kidding me? But if you have a little bit crazy inside you, you can understand how this might be. So when Levi was 12 or 13 years old, a 14-year-old girl named Patsy Morris, he really thought she was kind of cute.
And that little blonde girl.
And she rejected him. Mm-hmm. And she actually disappears, and her body is found 2 days later.
Oh.
And she had been strangled to death.
Interesting.
Now, Patsy's father received a phone call from a boy who had actually threatened to kill her. And her family to this day suspects that Levi is responsible for her death.
Wow.
But he's never been brought up on charges because they don't have proof. But his family said, I am 100% sure, or her family had said, I am 100% sure he is the reason she died. Now, in 2011, at the time of his conviction, the police actually said that they thought he is responsible for around 20 attacks on women that went unsolved. And Levi is currently the only serial killer in the UK that has 2 life sentences.
Wow.
And in 2020, he actually lost his TV privilege. He actually lost his TV privileges and his ability to wear his own clothes because I guess the prison he's in, he can wear his own clothes. He lost those privileges because he got into a fight with 2 other inmates because the 2 inmates, they give him shit. They give him shit for what he did.
Yeah.
And they were like being fucking assholes. And he fought him. And I guess he actually kind of held his own against them. And he laughs about it. And he's like, yeah, they just try to fuck with me. Like, this is what they do because of what I did. And he's like, whatever. Like, I'm not the one. Like, but he lost his privileges. So that is the story of Levi Bellfield, also known as the bus stop strangler, which obviously he was the bus stop strangler because he picked up girls from a bus stop.
So are there a lot of serial killers currently living in prison?
God. Yeah. I mean, pretty much, yeah. Every serial killer I do, most of them, unless they were born in like the fucking 20s, they're still alive.
Interesting.
And it's my pet peeve. We talk about all the time because a lot of them get death penalty and they still get to live.
Yeah.
And then they get to die because they just live so long that they die.
Yeah.
On their own. You know, this one, the thing about this guy is he is actually labeled as one of the more, what did they say? He's one of the more scary, I guess, serial killers in the UK because of the fact that he was able to get away with so many attacks. And they're pretty sure that there's a lot more victims that are murder victims that they just haven't found because...
Well, they said he was pretty charismatic,
He's
right?
very charismatic. Listen, he looks like he's kind of a chunkier guy and he's bigger, but he's not scary looking. So I can completely see how girls would be like, oh, I mean, he looks like, you know what he looks like? He looks like a really nice dad.
Oh, okay.
Like he looks like you're
trustworthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looks like, oh, that's just like my friend's dad. Like, so I can completely see how, like you would point out though, if had he driven a different car.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank God he was dumb enough to drive a scary
kidnapper
van because that's literally what it was like, and nobody wants to get into the vans.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah.
Interesting.
That's the story of Levi Bellfield, the bus stop strangler. So thank you very much for listening today, and I hope you guys enjoyed our guest host, Jay. And I'm thinking there's a chance that Jay will be on another episode because we're going to be visiting him in like the October time. So I'm going to bring the podcasting stuff to him and we'll do one in his area. So you'll hear his voice again, but that next time it'll probably be me, Jay, and Jay. So other than that, thank you so much. Please follow us, like and share, do all the things that we say at the end of every podcast episode. And until next time, goodbye.
And it's been an absolute pleasure. And I will talk to you again. Adios.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.